Hey Allie, you want to help me with a video?
Sure, what's the game we're rating?
Well, it's kind of like Harry Potter, with wizards and witches. It's called Fairy Tale.
Oh, cool. Can I see it?
Sure. Hey, where are you going?
Made in heaven.
Hello and welcome to Who Is Best, a show where I, LOCLOUDANE, take games that give you choices and rate those choices in a tier list. Fairy Tale is the unashamed magical world story that has managed to keep itself relevant alongside manga behemoths like One Piece and Naruto. But the influence of this magical adventure didn't stop with manga and anime. In 2020, a turn-based RPG was released, and with it came a roster of smoking hot, scantily clad, shonen-style wizards and witches as they battled the forces of evil. Today, we'll be rating the 16 party members and 4 insanely expensive DLC characters in Fairy Tale the game. Now, placement is pretty straightforward. The battle system adopts a grid-type placement for attacks, so party members that can best navigate this mechanic will place high. Elemental exploitation, buffing, and debuffing are also key to having a game-breaking endgame party. The two major factors when considering a party member's rankings are 1. The unique skills learned at ranks 2, 5, and especially rank 10. The second is whether a character has power level 5 attacks in their arsenal. A party member with great grid options, power level 5 attacks, unique skills that either buff or debuff, higher base stats, and elemental coverage without being highly dependent on the support of other characters will rank highest on this list. Now, I have to say this real quick. Fairy Tale has a massive DLC issue. You can purchase new outfits as well as 4 playable characters. If you want all of this, you are going to cough up more than the actual cost of the game. So, as this is a real-world accessibility issue for Fairy Tale, I will include this just slightly in my rating. Aside from that, everything else is straightforward. And of course, stick around till the end for a bonus list. The tier. Lion is a redundant party member as well as a DLC character. He is an ice-based attacker, so he lacks elemental coverage, and is a worse version of both Juvia and Gray, who both have that same issue. In order to get any sort of value out of him requires setup and support from other party members. Gajil suffers from strange grid layouts and middling stats. He only has a single level 4 spell and no level 5s. He can debuff by giving out Fear and Curse, which, unfortunately, are practically useless. He can also situationally lower defense, but both Ichiya and Lucy do this way better. Finally, he, like Lion, is very setup heavy, requiring the support of the party to reach his top potential. All of this makes him one of the worst characters in the game. The low tier. Rogue is simply a lesser Sting. He struggles to surpass him due to lower stats and the lack of any team buffs. Sure, he has many single target abilities, but when compared to anyone else, he just doesn't quite make the cut. Juvia is one of my favorite Fairy Tale characters and a bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to healing and support. For her to compete with anyone on this list, she has to be paired with Gray, as she'll receive a significant attack and defense buff. Unfortunately, when it comes to the late game, she'll be completely surpassed by Lucy in support and Mara Jane in damage. Lisana is another DLC character. It has some decent elemental coverage with her transformations. She can debuff with some of her attacks, but the main reason you would use her is for her healing abilities. Lisana has both an ability to heal and revive the entire party. Unfortunately, Fairy Tale isn't that hard, and there isn't an extreme need for such a dedicated healer, so she ends up falling short overall. Sting is a low-tier support unit. He can raise the party's attack and defense while also putting out decent damage. Due to early access to these buffs, he actually becomes a early and mid-game top-tier unit. But once Wendy reaches rank 10, any reason to have him on the party is obsolete. The mid-tier. Sharia is mainly a healer through the early and mid game, but at rank 10 gets an epic level 5 damaging move. Because of this, you could theoretically swap her in late game if you like her. Her damage will be up there, competing with Natsu and Mara Jane, but overall, she's not as consistent as your other party members and isn't very useful until that late game. Levi's main gimmick is adding and removing elemental resistances. She has the best elemental coverage of everyone except for Lucy, and if she had some level 5 moves, she might have landed higher on this list. Of course, she's a DLC character, so that counts against her as well. Laxus only has power 4 moves, but his personal Lacrima can give him an extra turn randomly. If you have the right timing and luck, this can make him as powerful a DPS as Natsu, but that is highly dependent on that extra turn. If not, then he ultimately is just a lesser Natsu. Gray doesn't get his best skills and abilities until the late and post game, which is a shame. Until then, he can be good but not amazing. I'd say he's an average DPS, and if paired with Juvia, provides an awesome buff for her. If done right, he can reach Natsu's damage, but he won't be your most useful DPS in the early or late game, placing him right in the middle. Elfman has great elemental coverage and a decent level 5 single panel attack, as well as a level 5 multi-panel attack. He has a few attacks that can debuff enemies, and if he wasn't locked behind that DLC paywall, I suppose he would land higher on this list. Kagura is our final member of the mid tier. She lacks any AoE damage and really is only useful during boss fights. Similar to Gildart's abilities, her arch enemy skill makes her damage go up when at low health. This, coupled with some devastating single target attacks, makes her a strong single target DPS. When put up against a single target high HP boss, she'll be incredibly useful. Outside of that, Kagura's lack of magic diversity and range makes her a one-trick pony. The top tier. Urza has everything Kagura has and more. Her Nakagami skill is one of the highest single target damaging moves in Fairy Tail. Urza is the tank of your party, and because of that, can help take steam off support units like Wendy and Ichiya. In most RPGs, tanks aren't really there for damage, but Urza is the exception. Her single target damage is only surpassed by Lucy and is matched by Mara Jane. In the endgame, she'll drop off slightly in usefulness as everyone receives their rank 10 moves and level 5 attacks, but despite this, she is still viable for your endgame team. Natsu is a no-nonsense DPS. Because of his personal Lacrima, 3 Awakenings, and King Dragon mode turning all his attacks into level 5 moves, he landed in the top tier. On top of this, he increases the damage of chain attacks. When not in his King Dragon mode, he does drop off in usefulness, and without it might have landed in the mid tier with Gray and Laxus. But when considering Natsu's insane damage potential, he had to land here on the top tier. Gildarts manages to just put Natsu behind him in the ranking because of his defense debuff, power 5 moves, and his passive that doubles chain attack damage. If you are abusing chain attacks, he is your man. Outside of this, there are 3 more characters that give out higher damage, but just barely. If you're using Gildarts in your team, you can't really go wrong. Mira is one of the most consistent damage dealers in Fairy Tail. She has a handful of level 5 attacks and awesome coverage. Unlike other DPS we've gone over, there are few required circumstances for her to reach her highest damage. And when it comes to single panel damage, she is just barely behind Urza and Lucy as far as most damage goes. The only criticism I can level is that her abilities are very MP dependent and cost a lot, so she'll need some item support there. But overall, Mara Jane is a recommended DPS for your endgame team. The God tier. Under the correct circumstances, Jalal puts out the most damage in the game, and it's not even close. If going up against huge targets like dragons for example, and with his personal Lacrima activated, he will dish out mind-blowing numbers and no other party member is even close. He is your super boss killer. Not just that, but he has useful AoE spells and a skill that can cause instant death, making him a solid mob clear as well. Ichiya. Yeah, those who would say that Ichiya is a joke character and pass up on him are missing out on one of the single best debuffers in the game. Ichiya's Virus may be one of the best spells in Fairy Tail. Not only can he debuff attack and defense, but he can also apply a random status effect as well. Spam Virus, and you can stack on multiple status effects on a single enemy, practically obliterating any challenge this game has to offer. And speaking of obliterating challenges, Wendy's Deus Ex is without doubt the best skill in Fairy Tail. Despite common opinion, her major, and I mean major, attack and defense buff works even at max stats, making Deus Ex the only way to completely surpass the game's stat limits. On top of this, she has one of the highest agility stats in the game, so she will almost always go first. Sure, she needs to be rank 10 to be fully viable, and until then, she is as good as many of the other healers on this list. But once reached, there is no one who can surpass her in support. Lucy is a mid-tier party member during the early and mid-game. This is mainly due to low attack and HP, but as you progress to the endgame and post-game, Lucy becomes so incredibly useful that she just can't be passed up. Not only does Lucy's Spirit King Celestial Summon do the most single target damage of any move, but her other level 5 move, Meteora, hits every box in the battlefield, becoming the single best AoE attack in the game as well. But Lucy's usefulness doesn't stop there. She also has useful support skills as well, like the ability to lower enemy defense, and she can heal the party. Overall, when considering endgame parties and possible battle potential, no one surpasses Lucy. And that's our list. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what other anime-based RPGs you'd like me to cover. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and if you're not on Patreon, take a look at my page for member-specific perks. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Bonus round, top 10 best dressed warriors and my wife's raw reaction to them. Number 10, Lax's dress up DLC outfit.
That's okay.
Number 9, Lucy's Taurus form.
Why are you laughing already? Yeah, looks about right.
Number 8, Gajil's dress up DLC outfit.
He looks dumb.
Number 7, Urza's Heaven's Wheel armor.
That was shocking.
Why?
It's very big and pointy.
Number 6, Lucy's dress up DLC outfit.
Honestly, it feels very on brand.
Number 5, Jalal's Mystigan outfit with mask.
Took me a second to realize where the person was.
Number 4, Urza's dress up DLC outfit.
All I see is boobs. That's all I see.
Number 3, Kagura's dress up DLC outfit.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
Number 2, Ichia's dress up DLC outfit.
That's definitely the character you'd choose to play as.
Yeah, yep. And finally, Mara Jane's dress up DLC outfit.
Tastefully untasteful.